Hello, welcome to today's workshop, Introduction to the Relationship Spectrum. Today we will be learning about what the relationship spectrum is and how this can help us assess and improve our own relationships. We will be covering the signs of unhealthy and abusive behaviors and building skills and tools for addressing them and keeping ourselves and our community safe. We want to emphasize that relationships can encompass both intimate partner relationships, family relationships, friendships, as well as working relationships.
This video is produced by the Share Title IX Education Team. The Share Education Team works to empower the Stanford community to end sexual and relationship violence, stalking, gender discrimination, and sexual harassment through collaborative healing, education, activism, response, and transformation.
Today's workshop will begin with an overview of the relationship spectrum framework. We will then move into identifying the signs of unhealthy and abusive relationships. We will then go over what a safety plan is and how you can create one. And finally, we'll discuss how we can support healthy relationships in our communities by providing support to our friends and loved ones who may be in an unhealthy or abusive relationship.
One framework we will refer to throughout this video is the relationship spectrum. The relationship spectrum reminds us that relationships occur on what we consider to be a spectrum, ranging from healthy to unhealthy to abusive. Thinking of relationships on a spectrum can be helpful because it invites us to consider the different behaviors that make up a relationship, rather than focusing on labeling relationships as a whole as unhealthy or healthy.
Healthy relationships are based on equality and respect. You make decisions together and can openly discuss what you're dealing with, like relationship problems and sexual choices. Unhealthy relationships are based on attempts to control the other person. One person tries to make most of the decisions, they may pressure their partner about sex, or refuse to see how their actions can hurt. Abusive relationships are based on power and control, but may also be based on accusations, blame shifting, isolation, pressure, and manipulation. One person is making all of the decisions about sexual choices, friend groups, boundaries, even what's true and what's not. Every relationship consists of many behaviors and norms that may place it higher or lower on the spectrum. All relationships exist on the spectrum, and it may be hard to categorize a relationship clearly. It can be hard to tell when the behavior crosses the line from healthy to unhealthy to abusive. A couple things to think about when looking at the health of your relationship include: does your partner respect you and your individuality? Are you both open and honest? Do you feel safe being open and honest? Does your partner support you and your choices even when they disagree with you? Do both of you have an equal say and respect your boundaries? Does your partner understand that you need to study or hang out with friends and family? Can you communicate your feelings without being afraid of negative consequences? Depending on your relationship, on your responses to these questions, you may determine where on the spectrum your relationship might fall right now. If your relationship falls on the unhealthy or abusive end of the spectrum, you may want to consider how you can protect yourself and your safety and ensure that your needs and boundaries are met.
In the next section of our video today, we will be going over some of the signs of unhealthy or abusive relationships. Understanding some of the common signs of unhealthy or abusive behavior can help us understand where on the relationship spectrum our relationships might lie.
Let's move into learning about some common signs of unhealthy relationships. These signs have been adapted from the One Love Foundation, a nonprofit organization that educates young people about healthy and unhealthy relationships. I highly encourage you to check them out if you're interested in learning more about relationships and ways to identify, avoid, and prevent abuse in intimate partnerships. The first sign of an unhealthy relationship is intensity. Intensity is one of the earliest signs of an unhealthy relationship, and unlike love, intensity often feels like too much, too soon. Intensity is when someone expresses very extreme feelings and over the top behavior that feels overwhelming. In digital communication, this might look like constant texts and calls. Sabotage. Unhealthy partners will use manipulation to control your decisions, actions, and emotions. Examples include a partner that says, "If you trust me, you will send me nudes." Or, "If you really loved me, you would let me meet your parents." When someone purposely ruins your reputation, achievements, or success, it's sabotage. Guilting. Guilting is when someone makes you feel responsible for their actions or makes you feel like it's your job to keep them happy. They may blame you for things that are out of your control and make you feel bad for them. For example, a person may try to make their partner feel guilty for their identity or for their dating history. Manipulation. Manipulation occurs when someone forcefully influences their partner into making certain decisions using emotional or verbal coercion, sometimes using lying, threatening, and guilting. For example, a person may try to manipulate their partner into staying in the closet or to come out before they are ready. Deflecting responsibility. If a partner deflects responsibility in a relationship, they are repeatedly making excuses for their unhealthy behavior. They may blame you or other people for their actions. In digital communication, this might look like a partner claiming someone else did that on their phone or that they were hacked.
Next, we have possessiveness. A possessive partner might be jealous to a point where they try and control who you spend time with and what you do. A partner may be possessive over what you're allowed to post on social media, or may track your location to see if you're spending time with other people. Isolation. Isolation is one of the sure signs of an unhealthy partner, and it involves your partner keeping you away from friends, family, or any other people aside from themselves. Belittling. Belittling is when someone does and says things that make you feel bad about yourself. This includes name calling, making rude remarks about people you're close with, as well as criticizing you. Next, volatility. A volatile person makes you feel like you might need to walk around eggshells around them, or they'll otherwise have extreme reactions to small things. Your relationship with them might feel like a roller coaster that contains extreme ups as well as downs. Next, betrayal. Betrayal is when someone is disloyal or acts in an intentionally dishonest way. For example, a person might out their friend without their permission or use the incorrect pronouns or name.
Now that we've identified some signs of unhealthy relationships, we're going to move into signs of abusive relationships. Remember that a relationship may not fit neatly into any of these categories and may include some behaviors of both. Some common signs of an abusive relationship include checking a partner's phone without permission, repeated and or excessive contacting, disregarding boundaries, explosive temper, extreme jealousy, isolating a partner from friends and family, gaslighting, mood swings, and signs or threats of physical or sexual violence.
Some additional signs in an abusive relationship include gaslightings, as we just mentioned, mood swings, as well as outbursts, and as well as any signs and threats of physical or sexual violence, as can be described within the slide.
Some of the signs of an abusive relationship may not always be visible to folks outside of that relationship. However, some common signs that may be visible to those outside the relationship, such as friends and family, include a partner hurting or threatening to hurt others, possessiveness over partner, mood swings and outbursts directed towards their partner or others, isolating their partner, and repeatedly contacting their partner.
When we consider abuse in relationships, we often think of physical abuse. However, as we just saw in the signs of abusive relationships, many of the different signs of abuse are not forms of direct physical violence. It's important to recognize that relationships can include different types of abuse and violence, pertaining to, but not limited to, physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic factors. When looking at your relationships, do not assume that abuse is impossible since we're in college and everyone is trying new things. Since we're in college and trying new things, everyone is young and careless, etc., etc. Even if your partner is not engaging in physical abuse, people can be abused in other ways, including mentally, emotionally, as well as financially.
We may also want to consider how unhealthy and abusive behaviors may look both similar and different in LGBTQ plus relationships. This power and control wheel helps us to think of different ways abuse might look in LGBTQ relationships. For example, denying, minimizing, and blaming abuse on the survivor is a form of abuse in many relationships. However, this might look different in LGBTQ plus relationships. For instance, a partner might say that it's mutual abuse, or women can't abuse women, or men can't abuse men. For relationships where one or both partner has children, threatening to damage or remove relationships with children is a common form of abuse. For LGBTQ relationships, this might include threatening to tell the partner's family, friends, former partners, or authorities about their identity to damage or end their relationship with their children. We invite you to pause the video here and read through this wheel and reflect on these ways and other ways that relationships might look different for LGBTQ plus communities or other communities you might be a part of.
Now that we've learned about the signs of healthy, unhealthy, and potentially abusive relationships, let's move into safety planning. Although everyone deserves to be in a positive and supportive relationship, it's also important to consider what to do if you or someone you know might be in an abusive relationship. It might be helpful to safely plan to protect your health and safety as much as possible. A safety plan is a prepared guide to help lower the risk of being hurt in any way by your partner. It is a plan that is specific to you and how you can increase your safety at home, at school, and more.
This link will direct you to an online tool for creating your personal safety plan created by the National Domestic Violence Hotline. This tool and other similar ones available online will ask you a series of questions to help you identify safety options and actions you can take to increase your safety.
Here are a couple of questions that might be included in safety planning tools. These questions may help you to identify people, places, and situations that can help protect your physical and emotional safety. After answering these questions, online safety tools such as the one that we have featured above allow you to print this information or store it privately so you can refer back to it. If you don't feel comfortable saving the safety plan or carrying it with you, you can still use the safety steps to try and remember important contact information or locations. Campus resources are always available to provide confidential support as you engage in the safety planning process. Both the confidential support team and the Stanford YWCA have a 24/7 hotline that can help you create your safety plan and identify important safety resources. The confidential support team's hotline is listed at the end of this video and is available at the back of your Stanford ID.
In the next portion of today's video, we are going to walk through supporting a friend or loved one who might be in an unhealthy relationship. It can be intimidating to start the conversation and figure out how to help, but we are going to walk you through how to set goals, initiate the conversation, and be supportive during and after you talk to them. There are a couple important steps we can take to prepare ourselves to support survivors of sexual and relationship violence. An important first step is to educate yourself on the options for resources so you're able to discuss them with the survivor. It's also important to remember that a survivor's encounter with you is only one stop on their journey to recovery. Regardless of your concern or best intentions, you will not be their sole source of healing. Acknowledge and accept your limitations and know when to ask for help. Finally, make sure to practice regular, healthy self care habits.
Let's start by clarifying the goals that we may have going into a conversation with a friend who may be impacted by relationship or sexual violence. These conversations aim to, firstly, provide support and assistance, secondly, to determine and address survivors' prioritized concerns, thirdly, to identify options and provide information to facilitate the survivors' informed decisions, and fourthly, to make appropriate referrals.
These are some examples of how you might broach the topic with your friends. With these goals in mind, how can we initiate these conversations? It might be a stressful step, but there are some useful ways to initiate these conversations. Some examples are, I have noticed that before you were blank, and now you seem blank. Is everything okay? It seems that you have been fill in the blank lately. How are you doing? I care about you and wanted to check in with you. Can we talk about? Regardless of how you choose to initiate this conversation, it's important to remember to express your care and support for your friends. Focus on identifying behaviors, not labeling the relationship or the individuals, and to provide space for your friend to discuss how they've been feeling and what support would be best for them.
Important steps to take during this conversation include inform the survivor if your role requires to notify professional staff. Ensure and secure privacy. Try not to discuss in a public space or where others may interrupt or overhear. Listen attentively and be prepared for a critical conversation. Set boundaries. You shouldn't take on more responsibility in assisting the survivor than you can handle or more than they request from you. Let the survivor tell their story. Assess the safety and physical condition of the survivor. Observe for injuries. Also, provide options, not advice. Do not attempt to save, rescue, enable, or take sides. Try to name behaviors rather than label the relationship or the partner. Remember to focus on empowerment, not enablement or ownership. Some helpful phrases can be, I'm sorry this happened to you. I believe you. It's not your fault. No one deserves to be hurt in this way. You have options. You did what you needed to do to survive, and I'm willing to do what I can do to help you.
After you have finished your conversation with your friend, there's a couple things to remember. 1. Exercise discretion and do not share the incident with others without the survivor's consent. Notify appropriate staff if this is required in your role as a student employee. Follow up with the survivor if you have their consent. And practice regular healthy self care habits. Be aware that your own reactions to relationship abuse. You might feel a sense of violation when someone you care about has been abused. You might experience feelings of confusion, hurt, or anger. You may wish you could make the survivor's pain go away. No matter how helpful you are, you can't make the relationship abuse disappear. The best you can do is help the survivor find ways to help themselves. Your support is much more helpful to the survivor than your anger and frustration. Recognize the difference between what you want and what the survivor wants. Try to distinguish between what you are doing to make yourself feel better and what you're doing to help the survivor. You might be tempted to do things that make you feel better that aren't helpful to the survivor, such as beating up the assailant or trying to get the survivor to just forget about it. Instead, ask the survivor what would be most helpful. Know your own limitations. Every individual has a limit to how much they can give. This does not make you a failure or a bad friend. It is important to know your own limitations of support and to share these clearly with the survivor. Provide the survivor with other support options. For example, provide them with resource phone numbers. Let the survivor know that you will not feel hurt if they choose to talk with someone else. Make sure to seek support for yourself throughout this process. Your support plays a critical role in the survivor's recovery and healing. Talking with someone who can help you work through your own feelings will better enable you to support the survivor. And remember to respect the survivor's privacy when seeking support from others.
Thank you so much for following along and listening. We hope that you've gained an awareness of the relationship spectrum and may be able to better identify and address unhealthy or abusive behaviors. In our next video in our relationship spectrum series, we will be covering healthy relationships, healthy behaviors, and how we can start cultivating these healthy relationships in our communities. Here we have listed our website and email address. We've also added the confidential hotline run by the confidential support team here on campus. If you or someone you know are struggling, please give them a call. We know these are really difficult conversations, and we hope that you never have to worry about these issues. But hopefully you have learned something today that may be able to help you or your friends if any of these issues ever arise. Please take care of yourselves after this training, and do not hesitate to reach out to campus resources or trusted people around you for support. You can also contact Share Education at stanford.edu for more information or visit our website at share.stanford.edu. Thank you.